using different pens.
During the raid, members of the Hawks arrived and demanded to be briefed on what was going on. Witness A claims that they were acting on instruction of former National Hawks head, Godfrey Labia. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
At the same time, suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has denied knowing murder-accused Vusimuzi Matlala during testimony in Parliament today. Testifying for a third day before Parliament's ad hoc committee, Mchunu has also denied claims that he has benefited in any way from Matlala, moving to clarify how he knows another controversial businessman, Brown Mokgotsi. Mchunu told the ad hoc committee that they are party comrades only. Lindsay Dendlinger reports.
Minister Senzo Mchunu says he's never laid eyes on Vusimuzi Matlala and only got to know of his name last December during discussions with the Police Commissioner, Fani Masemola, about a tender for clinics at police training colleges.
I have never met Matlala. I have never seen him in my naked eye. I have never had a talk directly or indirectly with him.
On a question from EFF leader Julius Malema, Mchunu has confirmed he had wanted Matlala to depose an affidavit while he is in prison to confirm there's no relationship between them.
What is it that I've ever received from Matlala? Or what word has ever gone between me and Matlala? But they say he funds my lifestyle.
Mchunu says he would want this committee or the Madlanga Commission to call Matlala to testify before them to confirm they've never had any dealings. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
Let's stay with parliamentary matters. The Higher Education Portfolio Committee is expected to visit the University of Fort Hare in the Eastern Cape today following the recent protest action. 2 weeks ago, students embarked on demonstrations over poor governance and management. They also wanted Vice-Chancellor Professor Sakela Buhlungu to resign. 2 building blocks were set alight during the violent protest action. Nhlanhla Mabaso reports.
The Higher Education Committee is on a fact-finding mission at the University of Fort Hare in the Eastern Cape. This after the students' protest resulted in extensive damage to some buildings at the institution. Portfolio Committee Chairperson Tebogo Lutsiye has estimated the cost of damage to be around 250 to 500 million rand. The committee believes the destruction could have been avoided had the university management allowed for Student Representative Council elections to take place instead of appointing an interim structure. The members of parliament are hoping to find solutions as this could affect those meant to graduate. Nhlanhla Mabaso, Eyewitness News.
1 person has been killed and another seriously injured following a drive-by shooting in KwaZulu-Natal. Paramedics say the 2 men were attacked while driving in Durban this morning. The motive for that shooting is not yet known. ALS paramedics spokesperson Gareth Jameson says the driver of the car has now been taken to hospital.
Paramedics arrived on scene to find chaos and carnage as they found that a vehicle had been shot at numerous times, leaving both the driver and passenger with multiple gunshot wounds. Paramedics assessed the 2 men, believed to be in their 30s and 40s. However, one of them, the passenger, had sustained multiple gunshot wounds and there was nothing paramedics could do for him, and he was declared deceased at the scene.
And in France, former President Nicolas Sarkozy's legal team has filed a motion for his release. The Conservative politician was sentenced to 5 years last month for his role in a conspiracy to illegally raise campaign funds from Libya. He is the first former president to be jailed since Nazi collaborator Marshal Philippe Pétain after the Second World War. Sarkozy has consistently denied any wrongdoing and has described the case as politically motivated. Gold is trading at $4,269.73 an ounce. The rand is at 17.31 to the dollar, 23.17 to the pound, 20.12 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $61.01 a barrel.
Well, at this hour, if you're heading towards the Joburg CBD, leaving the Melrose Centre area, there's slow-moving traffic. M1 southbound. This is between Ethel Oakland and Jan Smuts Avenue. In the Mother City, we also have slow-moving traffic. That's on the N7 southbound, approaching the engine garage due to an overturned truck.
It's a partly cloudy afternoon in Gauteng today with isolated afternoon showers and thundershowers expected. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 20 and 24 degrees, while Cape Town is fine with a fresh southeasterly wind at a high of 30 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, Witness A has revealed to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry today how police raided the lavish Sandhurst home of Katiso KT Malef last year.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app. 702 on 92.7 and 106 FM.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app
And on DSTV channel 856.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. Think bigger, think Nedbank Commercial Banking.
702, the Midday Report, Monday to Friday.
12 to 1 p.m.
Hello, I'm Jane Dutton in for Mandy, and oh, what a day it has already been. We've been hearing explosive new details about the raid on Katiso Malef's home and how deep those Transnet links may go. Police Minister Senzo Mchunu is back before Parliament's ad hoc committee. We've been privy to his relationship with Brian Mahotsi and Kat Matlala. Plus, from Gen Z protests shaking up capitals around the world, could South Africa, with 60% youth unemployment, be next? It's also day one of the Matric finals. If you've got a child writing, how are you holding up? How are they holding up? What's your secret keeping them motivated? And yes, the man who loves sending explicit emojis, Judge Mrenge, is back in court today. I'd love to hear from you as always. Send us your voice notes or WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk is brought to you by Net Commercial Banking. See money differently.
Lindsay Dentlinger has been sitting in on the police's ad hoc committee where Senzo Mchunu has been testifying, investigating allegations made by KwaZulu-Natal Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. Lindsay, let's start off with Brown Mahotsi. Spent some time talking about his relationship or lack of it. What did we learn?
Good afternoon, Jane. Well, he was wanting the committee to re-listen to the comments he made before the police committee on the 5th of March when he said he didn't know Brian Mahotsi. And he went through a great length to describe his understanding of what is an accomplice and what is a comrade. And the upshot of his testimony before the inquiry today that he does know Brian Mahotsi. He's known him since around 2016, but says he knows absolutely nothing even about his personal life, and any relationship between them is purely based on the fact that they both belong to the same political party. They might have discussed something related to service delivery, but they are merely comrades and not acquaintances.
Obviously, his name has been coming up quite frequently in the Madlanga inquiry as well as Kat Matlala. What has he been saying about him?
And that's how he concluded the testimony that was led by evidence leader Norman Arendse was to describe what he said was a complete lack of a relationship. He said he had never laid eyes on Vusimusi Matlala at all. He didn't even know who that was. He hadn't even heard that name until he and Police Commissioner Fani Masemola in and around the 20th of December last year were discussing a tender for clinics at police training colleges, and that's when the name first came up. And he said that if it were true that he knew Kat Matlala, why would he then cancel a tender if this was ostensibly an acquaintance or a friend of him, or if he stood to benefit in any way from this tender? He said he had cancelled it because he believed it to be irregular, but not for any other reason, and certainly not because he knew that Kat Matlala had been awarded this particular tender. He was also asked about it by the EFF's Julius Malema why he would, or whether he had insisted on an affidavit from Matlala in prison, and he confessed to that. He said the media had reported so many falsehoods about him. There were wrong perceptions in the public domain that he had in some way benefited from this businessman, and he wanted an affidavit from Pat Matlala, even if he had to depose it in prison, to clarify that they did not know each other and that they had no relationship whatsoever.
And the other questions been asked by the MPs regarding the political killing task team. I mean, this is obviously something that has been hounding Mkhunu from the beginning. What more has been said about that?
So in the first of the questions to come from MPs today, which we expect to run way into the afternoon, if not way late this evening, was again taking him back to what he has been testifying in the previous 2 days about disbanding this political killings task team, and MP Sokenyile asking him again about the timing of all of this. As you know, he wrote that letter to the police commissioner on the 31st of December, which some might find a bit curious that a police minister is giving these instructions on a New Year's Eve. But he said that this letter was being misinterpreted. It wasn't like he was giving an immediate instruction for the political killings task team to be disbanded that very minute or that very day. He said he was on leave on the 29th, the 30th and 31st of December. He had clarity of mind. He had been thinking about things. He had been mulling things over in his mind. And things had become clearer to him in terms of his reasoning why this killings task team had to be disbanded. And that's when he sat down and wrote the letter, and that there was no malicious or nefarious intent writing this letter when he knew very well that Police Commissioner Fani Masemola was on leave. It was just purely that he had time to think and ruminate about things, but he was by no means giving an immediate instruction for it to be done.
All right, Lindsay, I'm going to let you go back in and continue to listen to what has been said, and MPs posing questions now to Senzo Mkhunu. Let's dip in.
Is it your evidence that, given that, you found it adequate not to consult the president prior the decision was taken?
I would not agree with you exactly on that, because it was pitched at ministerial level via the interministerial level, which is no longer obtaining in the 7th administration. It was not pitched at presidential level. It was pitched at ministerial level via the interministerial, via the minister who was chairing, but where there was interministerial, and there is no longer any ministerial. Okay. So I won't agree with you.
Okay, let me rephrase my question, Minister. Was President Cyril Ramaphosa informed or briefed or consulted prior the taking of the decision to dissolve the political killings task team?
You swallow a lot of words such that I don't hear.
It might be the mic. I'm saying, let me rephrase it. Was President Cyril Ramaphosa, as a person whose intervention as a result of the PKTT establishment, consulted, informed, or briefed about the intended dissolution prior the decision was taken?
No.
He was not consulted. Okay. The president also established the interministerial committee, which you say in the 7th administration there is no interministerial committee. Maybe if you can brief us, when was it dissolved by the president, who appointed it? When were the closing reports being submitted, so that we better understand that if there were terms of reference, perhaps that guide it not to surpass the 6th administration. Has there been such?
What's the question?
I'm saying the question is, you say the interministerial committee is non-existent in the 7th administration. So I'm saying, did the person who appointed the interministerial committee dissolve the interministerial committee? 2, when were the closing reports of the IMC submitted to the president so as to seal the closing of the IMC. 3, were there terms of reference that say the interministerial committee only exists in the 6th administration?
Yeah, Honorable Ngola, you must not drown my witness with a bombardment of questions. May you please take your
one by one, Chair.
Your questions one by one.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So apologies, Mr.
No, I understand all of it.
Okay, no, that's fine. He says he can take it in that fashion, Chair.
Just saying, go easy. You have time. I mean.
Okay,
yeah.
Chair.
My statement, that is my affidavit, only refers to the 7th administration not having an interministerial committee on the National Political Killings Task Team that was established in 2018 to focus in the main KZN. It doesn't go beyond that to say there was a report, there was closure of the report, and this is the report. It only makes reference that when I got appointed in the 7th administration as Minister of Police, there is no interministerial committee.
We've been listening to Police Minister Mchunu there responding to questions in the ad hoc committee into allegations made by Mkhwanazi. Obviously, at the same time, the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry is underway. Oren Singh has been keeping an eye on that. And Oren, we've heard some real juicy information coming today from the raid on Malef's home.
I think so, Jane. We heard from Witness A, who's continued with his testimony into this morning, talking a little bit more about that raid at Katiso Katie Molefe's home in Sandhurst. This was a raid that was conducted by members of organized crime in Gauteng, as well as members of the Political Killings Task Team and Counterintelligence in the province, on Katie Molefe's home. And what they found at his home, some of the stuff coming out was quite interesting of what they had found. Troves of documents related to Transnet tenders that Molefe said he had nothing to do with, but the room in which, or the office in which these documents were found, his son and nephew were operating that office and didn't want to take ownership of the documents or anything of that sort. But it also was interesting to hear from Witness A, who's a member of organized crime in Gauteng, the threats that mounted against their lives and the threat risk assessment that was carried out by crime intelligence against the investigators investigating the Armand Swart murder, in which Katie Molefe has been implicated as the mastermind behind that killing, and to the extent of they had to be taken away from their homes. And we'll hear in this clip now that Witness A speaking of how they were ordered by crime intelligence that pack your bags, you're going away, you can't tell your family where you're going, and you'll hear what he has to say now.
For 3 months, if I'm correct, we didn't go home. We were here. We celebrated Christmas here, starting from the early December to New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. We were here, not going home, not even disclosing to the people that are close to you where you are.
I mean, that really is an indication of how frightening this whole process is, right? And what a chance whistleblowers take every single day. And you don't know who is really looking after you or not.
And I think at the end of the day, it's far more frightening for an investigator, him having said that, you know, in his decades of being an investigator and a detective, he'd never received threats to this extent, that there was a risk assessment done on not only his life, but the life of the other investigators from organized crime that are looking into these cartels and alleged syndicates in the province, and that they were determined to be very high risk. And so they had to go to safe houses, a safe house in which he's testifying before the commission currently at an undisclosed location. And the next witness we're likely to hear from, Jane, is the investigating officer in the Armand Swart case, that is Witness B, who will come after Witness A and testify. And she, too, is also going to be testifying from a safe house due to these risks that have been imposed on their lives.
And you and I were talking a little bit earlier about where the president is in all of this. I mean, there's his man Mchunu, who's just, well, it looks like his political career is rather bleak. When are we going to see the president appear?
I I think that's a question on everyone's lips. And I don't think President Cyril Ramaphosa, when he made the announcement of this commission to be established and for Parliament to probe the allegations by Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi on the 6th of July, that it would come to this, that it would turn full circle and come back to bite him, essentially. We know of the allegations and the claims and the links being made to Hangwani Maumela, the man who essentially was part of the syndicate that raped funds from Tembisa Hospital. And now the links are there, that President Cyril Ramaphosa knows him, albeit from his former wife 42 years ago. And so essentially, President Cyril Ramaphosa has to still account for all of this and all the allegations that have come full circle and that have landed on his doorstep. He needs to answer to that. And I think if I was in his shoes, I would make it a case of rather sooner than later, appearing before the ad hoc committee or the Madlanga Commission. And I presume that he's likely to more likely appear before the ad hoc committee rather than the Madlanga Commission. But I would appear sooner than later and answer the questions that are on everyone's lips at the moment.
And coming up, we're going to be speaking to Marian Tam, who reckons we are at our Gupta leaks moment. Real growth needs more than just banking, and Nedbank Commercial Banking is your growth partner. Their team of industry experts understand your business and its potential, offering insight to help you see opportunity where others see obstacles. Because when you can see what others don't, you can do what others can't. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Mr. Govender, congrats on the retirement. You just sold your car to We Buy Cars. Tell us about it.
Yes, it just gathered dust in the garage, so I exchanged it for cold hard cash. Now my wife and I can enjoy a stress-free retirement.
Retiring the car as you retire. Nice. So why We Buy Cars?
It was so quick. They came over to our house to do the evaluation, and we sold it the same day. Tops, man.
Okay, so now you got even more time on your hands, eh?
Exactly.
We Buy Cars. Geared for your next chapter. Geared for you.
Huawei Watch GT6 Series, 2025's must-have smartwatch. Introducing the King of Power. Up to 21 days of unstoppable battery life in a sleek titanium and ceramic design that's as strong as it's stylish. The Trackmaster with 24/7 heart rate tracking, sleep monitoring, health management, and the world's first cycling virtual power feature. Fully compatible with both iOS and Android. Get yours now from just 169 Rand a month over 36 months or 4,999 Rand at selected retailers. T's and C's apply.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car full of groceries and a lady who will be attempting to make her mother-in-law's famous recipe for the family dinner tonight.
5 mils of sugar.
The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic, it's butterflies and a potential bonding moment. Every story is different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
Because this journey is better taken together.
Let's walk the talk. 702.
I'm Jane Dutton, standing in for Mandy. We've been listening to fascinating evidence coming out of the ad hoc committee as well as the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry, links to Transnet, Malef, the raid on his house. Just quite incredible what we are learning. And we're going to speak to Marian Tam now, who's the associate editor of the Daily Maverick, who says we've reached a turning point in South African politics, and it's perhaps more significant than our Gupta leaks moment with these twin inquiries into police corruption. You know the number. Give us a call. Send us your voice note, 072 702 1702. Mariam, why do you say that?
Good afternoon, Jane. Well, what we see is, to go back to 2017, investigative journalists probing state capture, but, nothing bringing it to a point in a sense until the Gupta leaks emerge. After the Gupta leaks, you see the Zondo Commission, but you see sort of a very slow progress towards cleaning out what we probably would call palace politics, the big guys involved in this. And so it sort of simmered away, and then you see the arrests in June of Siyabonga Gama, Brian Molefe, Anoj Singh, and various others. What's happened now is this has filtered down to the very bottom and bottom feeders of exactly what propped up this apparatus that kind of developed during Jacob Zuma's 9 wasted years. And it was inevitable at some point, even though much of this information is already out in the public and has been testified to at various commissions, you reach a moment when they all come together and you start to see the horrific picture. And that is my feeling at the moment. And it's a moment we must be very careful with, because we don't have an IGI overseeing anyone at the moment. We have a police minister on suspension and an acting police minister. And, there's too much going on for us not to keep our eye on the ball here.
And, I mean, we see what happens when there isn't a vacuum. So we can assume that these nefarious deeds are continuing in this.
Well, if you start going back and digging, you'll start finding that a lot of the circles point back to the ruling party itself, plundering the Secret Service account and the crime intelligence account to fund elective conferences. That's massive.
Yeah.
It's almost, imagine the Conservative Party in England going to Scotland Yard and raiding their CI funds to buy votes. It's that bad. So, over and above everything else, the palapalas and the classified this and the firing of that, what are we going to do with this information when it comes out? It's been there.
That's right.
And no one has acted on it. So now suddenly it snaps into focus. And you can understand that the party is fighting for its life.
I mean, this is where we always fall in South Africa, don't we? I mean, we get to this point and it's what happens next. And if Gupta Leaks ended Zuma's reign, is there any chance these revelations will clean up the criminal system or just rearrange it?
Well, this is Ramaphosa's choice at the moment, because a lot of the MPs sitting in the committee are from MK, and I wonder how they're going to swallow the serpent when it appears. So I can understand the president's position at the moment, where you need to cauterize the party from this depth of corruption. Otherwise, what have you got going into the future? MK. So the two, the ANC and MK here are bleeding back into each other because of its past. And all of this presents a very dangerous moment where you also have a provincial commissioner having a press conference and making allegations, muddying all of the actual focus, which should be the ruling party, and it's a mafia state. This is what we're hearing. And,
I mean, it's actually petrifying what we're hearing, isn't it? I mean, these are people who should be looking after the safety of the country. As Lex says, sadly, intelligence in South Africa is an oxymoron, but all of this energy is being put into doing just what they shouldn't be doing.
Right. Will our guardrails hold? They held we had the Zonda Commission. We're watching this in public in South Africa. People are being held accountable. These are all extremely positive things around this commission. Your populace, this is not in secret. You are hearing these people, but too many conspiracy theories exist, and too many people who think they know what's happening are, in a sense, muddying the water. And we have to be careful of this. I mean, we might, and I'm saying might, end up with another sort of one of those mass marches South Africans are great at doing. You know what I mean? Yeah. If what comes out of this commission is not acted upon, we need to rethink how the government of national unity is going to deal with it, and the ANC itself with its leadership, with its next leadership race. So it is
something
for me
must change.
Very much.
And
this is a tipping point. Yeah.
And you were saying we could see Zuma, Mbeki, Motlanthe, and Ramaphosa up in the stand.
Well, they've been called. The committee wants them. They've had a very, very long session with people putting down names of people who should come and testify. And the reason why all those names are there is precisely because of what I mentioned earlier on. Where did that money go? Did it go? Did Fikile Mbalula organize the buying of a grabber for Matric? Was he involved in that crime intelligence operation? Is there evidence to show he was? What's Becky Cele's involvement with Kat Matlala? This is the question we are now asking, and they have to come and answer. So get your popcorn. At the same time, I just want to say to South Africans that things outside of politics are functioning. The world is still functioning. The airplanes are taking off. The government of national unity is doing its business. The Department of Agriculture is signing trade agreements with whoever in Vietnam. So we have to understand that, while this is very anxious making. At the same time, there are very good people who are still carrying on with what they always did when we went through our 9 years. So that's South Africa for you. We've got to put our boots on again.
Absolutely. Let's leave on that positive note. Marianne Tam, Associate Editor, Daily Maverick. Thank you. And it's 12:31, time for the news headlines.
Thanks, Jane. A very good afternoon. Witness A has revealed to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry today how police raided the lavish Sandhurst home of Katiso KT Malef last year. This formed part of an ongoing investigation into the murder of Reneging engineer Ahmad Swart. Witness A says documents related to Transnet tenders and pages of signatures were recovered during the search and seizure operation. At the same time, suspended Police Minister Senzo Mchunu has denied knowing murder-accused Vusimuzi Matlala during his testimony in Parliament today. Testifying for a third day before Parliament's ad hoc committee, Mchunu has also denied claims that he has benefited in any way, financially or otherwise, from Matlala. And in Japan, parliamentarians have made history by electing Sanai Takaichi as the country's first female prime minister. She won a clear majority, 237 votes in the lower house and another 125 in the upper house. Takaichi takes over at a challenging economic moment as Japan grapples with rising costs of living as well as a frustrated public. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 1 or as it happens.
EWN Sport.
Good afternoon, I'm Tolagele Mganga. We start with cricket, where both national teams are in action against Pakistan today. At the World Cup, the penultimate round-robin game is currently being delayed by rain, with South Africa at the crease on 6 for 1 after 2 overs. While in Rawalpindi, the Proteas are batting on day 2 of their second test and have now moved on to 107 for the loss of 2. They trailed by 226 runs. At the crease is Tristan Stubbs on 34 alongside Tony Dezorzi on 23. Earlier, Keshav Maharaj took 7 wickets as Pakistan were dismissed for 333 in their first innings. Switching over to the Champions League, where Arsenal have apologized to Atletico Madrid after a hot water failure at the Emirates Stadium meant that the Spanish team couldn't shower at the ground following their training session last night. UEFA rules allow visiting teams to train in the home stadium the night before matches, while the club have apologized for the inconvenience caused. On the pitch, Mikel Arteta has looked ahead to the encounter as they look to keep their unbeaten start going.
First of all, the willingness to win. You can sense that in every single ball, in every single yard, the way they play. So it's about how they compete and then after how they play. And I think there are two very different things. The level of organization is really high, the level of discipline is really high, and then they have had quite a lot of talent throughout the years that are very specific for the needs and the way they want to play, and they are very, very, very good at exploiting those opportunities.
And Cal Brook has announced a return to the ring for the first time in 4 years in a bout that will pay tribute to the late Ricky Hatton. The fight in February will be against Issa Aldar, who Hatton was scheduled to go up against in December. Tola Gilemganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Well, at this stage, if you are leaving the Joburg CBD, you can expect about a 20-minute delay. This is on the M2 westbound between the Crown Interchange and Main Reef Road. Also traveling through Houghton heading towards the Joburg CBD, traffic remains sluggish. M1 southbound between Ethel Oaklands and Jan Smuts Avenue. Also, we still have those roadworks in the Alex Calvin area, slowing down traffic on the N3 in both directions. This is between the Battery Interchange and London Road. Some good news in the mother city. Baden-Powell Drive is now reopened to traffic. However, if you're heading towards the Cape Town CBD, there's still that accident scene on the N7 southbound approaching the engine garage. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
It all starts with advice from FNB Private. Because the perfect overseas trip starts with planning. Save and spend in multiple currencies with your FNB Global account and lock in exchange rates. Enjoy up to 40% off flights with eBucks Travel and order Forex on the FNB app delivered to you at no extra cost. Your adventure awaits. Unlock invaluable with FNB Private. Help changes everything. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider. TC's earn rules and limits apply.
Trust is earned when it's put to the test. The certainty your data is safe. The knowledge that when threats evolve, you're ahead of them. Vodacom's cybersecurity protects what matters. From national networks to enterprise IP, your data stays secure and your people stay connected. Search Vodacom Business Security. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Vodacom Business. Further together.
What you're hearing isn't a traffic accident. It's not panic braking. It's our amazing car-stopping 40th birthday deals. For a limited time only, Auto & General is offering great savings with our 40th birthday Ruby deals. Celebrate with us by visiting autogen.co.za for great personal and business car insurance savings. Auto & General, never not there. Auto & General is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's and C's online. Offer available for a limited time only.
KwaZulu-Natal is South Africa's fastest growing business tourism hub, and the numbers prove it. Since 2020, business events have injected 1.8 billion rand into the province, driving inclusive growth across the tourism value chain. Tomorrow, 702 is in conversation with KZN Tourism and Film. Find out how KwaZulu-Natal is building Africa's global gateway for business. Don't miss 702 in conversation with KZN Tourism and Film tomorrow on 702 Drive with John Perlman.
702, the Midday Report, Monday to Friday.
12 to 1 p.m.
It's me, Jane Dutton. It's good to be with you today. We've been talking quite a bit about the Badlanga Commission of Inquiry and also the ad hoc commission into the claims made by Mkhwanazi. Simon Ramachella says, why do I get the feeling that no one cares about whoever else is implicated in these police investigations, as the target is only Ramaphosa and his political career? I mean, Marion Tam was saying there that this really boils down to what has been happening at the hands of the ANC and the plundering of funds used to prop the party up and some of the players there. And Steve Jacobs says, with all the money recently being spent on the national dialogue and the concerns expressed about the return of investment, I got to wondering about the billions spent on the Zondo Commission and the number of people prosecuted and monies recovered as a result. I mean, that's the question, isn't what is going to be done with this information when that report lands in the president's hands? What will he do? We know his weaknesses, not decisive when it comes to dealing with corruption. Hopefully things will change. He's got time to rethink what he's going to do with this.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 and Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently.
So Mr. Emoji is back in court today. The sexual harassment case of Eastern Cape Judge President Selby Mbenenge is back before the Judicial Service Commission. And we're hearing oral arguments from both sides. And Mbenenge is accused of harassment by Secretary Andiswa Mengo. Khomotso Modise, EWN reporter, is on the story. What have we been learning about today, Khomotso?
Well, Jane, today we've just heard the evidence leader, Advocate Salome Skeepers, conceding that there are credibility issues with the complainant, Ms. Andiswa Mengo. And this was based on the testimony that she gave over the last few months, really. And what we heard was the Judge President Mwebe questioning Skeepers after her address and her closing remarks, really asking what should happen if we realize or we rule or find that a reasonable person would have found that those messages were consensual and that it's not true that they were unwanted. And Skeepers really struggled to answer that question, which is really at the heart of this inquiry, Jane. The tribunal has the difficult task of establishing whether the messages between Mbenenge and the secretary were consensual, whether they were unwanted, and if they constitute sexual harassment. And the commissioners have really been asking some tough questions around consent, around what seems to a reasonable to have been consensual to a reasonable person who was reading the WhatsApp messages. Of course, you may remember, Jane, that there were texts that were exchanged between Mbenenge and Ms. Mengo, and we've heard experts trying to decode what they mean and whether they constitute sexual harassment.
And what's at stake here for them, for the Eastern Cape bench?
Well, what would happen is if Judge President Selby Mbenenge is found guilty of sexual harassment, then he stands to be impeached, because ultimately then it's being argued that he would then be found guilty of gross misconduct, which is, reason to impeach a judge. We've already had, I believe it's 3 judges in South Africa impeached for gross misconduct. So the stakes are very, very high here. If he's found guilty of sexual harassment, then he would then stand to be impeached as a judge.
All right, let's leave it there. Khomotso Modise.
Walking this talk together.
Every hour.
Every day. This is 702.
Let's walk the talk.
South Africa's powerful Labour Federation, Cosatu, is caught in a political tug of war as it weighs whether to back the ANC or the breakaway SACP in the 2026 elections. Now, the once unshakable tripartite alliance forged in the struggle years is showing deep fractures. And with the SACP set to go it alone, Cosatu support could decide who holds sway over millions of working class votes. Let's talk about this more with Matthew Parks, Cosatu parliamentary coordinator. Matthew, always good to talk to you. Which way are you leaning? Who's a better partner for you?
Good afternoon. Thanks for having us. Look, this is a complex issue for our members, for our unions, for workers. The resolution from our recent Central Committee, which is like our midterm kind of Congress, so to speak, was that we want the alliance to remain intact, that we want to retain our relationship with the ANC and also to retain our relationship with the SACP. So the mandate from our Central Committee was for Cosatu leadership to go and engage the ANC and engage the SACP, see how to resolve these differences between the alliance partners, to make sure that we preserve the alliance, that we unite it, and also to make sure that when we head towards local election next year, what is likely to be our most difficult ones, that we have one platform as the alliance. We don't know what the modalities will be, especially that the parties made a decision to contest elections. But I think for us, it's clear that whatever the modalities might be, we need to resolve it and we need to all be on the same page, so to speak. So I think for us, that is the bottom line. We've had an engagement with the SACP. We've had an engagement with the ANC yesterday. We are keen to now convene a formal inclusive alliance meeting of all alliance partners, including Sanco. And I think for our position, bottom line is we're not going to choose. Our workers are very clear to us. They don't want to be divided by this issue. We must sort it out at a leadership level, and we must make sure that we do so in a way which preserves the unity of alliance, and also make sure we do it in a way which ensures the alliance can emerge from the local elections with a majority, not to be stuck in this 40% instability of coalitions.
I mean, can Cosatu afford neutrality when workers are demanding tangible change? Where does this standoff or this lack of movement leave workers?
Well, I think our members are quite clear. We're not neutral. We're in favor of the alliance. And so both the ANC and the SACP need to work with us on a modality which ensures the unity of the alliance. But also our engagement with the ANC yesterday was not just about the alliance. That's an important issue, but also about the state of public services, how to capacitate the state to deliver the frontline services that working class communities, that the economy depend upon, from electricity to rail, from roads to water and so forth. And also how do we kickstart the economy to get us out of the 1% quagmire, to begin to reduce our painfully high levels of unemployment. But to do that, you also need a coherent and united alliance where we all speak to the same page. So we had an ANC election 10-point plan, economic 10-point plan presentation. I think there are good things there, but we need to make sure we're on the same page again as alliance so that there's coherence in government when it comes to implementation.
And I mean, does it boil down to the ANC's dominance just having been eroded so deeply? Is that a concern for you going forward?
It is a deep concern. Often it's because of own goals. Often it's because of hemorrhaging splinter groups leaving the ANC over the past 2 decades, be it a UDM or a COPE or EFF or MK, etc. It's natural in any democracy for voters to get tired of one party after being in power for many, many years, in this case 30 years. But for us, we remain convinced that the ANC, the SACP alliance is the best political vehicle to address the frustrations of workers and working class interests. These are the only political vehicles we believe that have ever been on the side of workers, be it in the dark days of apartheid or as we built a democratic dispensation post-94. And they've proven themselves to be relevant too, even in recent years, because it's because of our alliance we're able to achieve a minimum wage, raising the wages of 6 million workers. We're able to release over 60 billion rand during COVID from the UF to help 5.7 million workers. And even last year, we were able to achieve the 2-part pension reform, putting 60 billion rand into the pockets of 3.5 million workers. So for us, there are a lot of issues, a lot of own goals. There's a need to intensify the renewal efforts. But we remain convinced this is the best political vehicle. That's why we're so keen to see how to preserve the alliance, how do we strengthen it, and how do we make sure we reconfigure it. Because the party, like Cosatu, has raised concerns about the reconfiguration of the alliance, making sure the alliance plays a leadership role in driving the mandate of the state, and also plays a critical oversight role in holding the state accountable. And I think those are issues we agree with the party. And I think the ANC also has agreed to those values too. So I think for us it's a question of implementation. I think we're largely on the same point, but we've got to address some of the modalities which often are quite complex and we don't know all the answers to them yet, but we're convinced we must find the answers.
Well, we look forward to seeing how this is going to play out, but as you say, relatively strong for now. I mean, it'll be interesting to see if there is a divided left and what that'll mean for 2026. Good talking to you, Matthew Parks, Cosatu Parliamentary Coordinator. To sell or not to sell? That is the question. Whether selling a car, bike, boat or bakkie, We Buy Cars offers instant payment and a stress-free experience. Simply complete the form on webuycars.co.za for the best offer. Trading in or shopping for your next ride? Explore 12,000 plus vehicles online or visit We Buy Cars in store. Whether buying or selling, head to We Buy Cars today.
The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car with a parent and a nervous but excited kid practicing her lines to put on a show-stopping performance at the school play. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic, it's a future superstar on the move. Every story's different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
You might not always notice us, but your safety is our priority. From the moment you step out of your home, drop your child at school or arrive at work, when you trust someone to cut a new set of keys or attend a packed stadium event. From VIP protection to safeguarding goods and property, your security matters to us. Choose wisely. Choose right. Only use CIRA accredited security service providers. CIRA, safer homes, safer businesses, safer communities.
This week, 702 is in conversation with Gregory McLennan, the CEO of DigiCloud Africa, Google Cloud's first and leading value-added cloud distributor. They will touch on DigiCloud Africa's appointment as a Google SecOps distribution partner, as well as cybersecurity and how DigiCloud Africa and Google SecOps can help African businesses address any modern threats. Don't miss In Conversation with DigiCloud Africa on Thursday, 23rd of October on 702 Drive with John Perlman on 702.
Because this journey is better taken together.
Let's walk the talk. 702.
The Mapungubwe Institute for Strategic Reflection has launched its publication, State of the South African State. The publication draws on leading scholarship and practical insights to examine the strengths and weaknesses of the state. I mean, today it's quite a bit of the focus has been on the weaknesses of the state. Tabisa Gobe has been there, and I believe it's a 700-page document. I can't imagine that you've managed to speed read through all of that, but what are their toughest findings about where government has failed?
Good afternoon, Jane. Yes, as you said, I've only just gotten my hands on the document. But obviously, there has been a number of presentations from the authors and from the editors today. So the Mapungubwe Institute is a think tank. So it's a sort of a think tank. It features a number of people that maybe served in the ANC, like the executive director, Mr. Joel Nechenzi, but also some policy scholars. So a very, very diverse group of very serious people. So one of the findings, they've sort of made is obviously one of those usual ones around corruption, around how corruption in the government sector has sort of diminished any work that government is trying to do, whether that's due to health or trying to improve service delivery, is that corruption remains at the heart of diminishing government's work. But also it spoke around how that in the country is currently at a crisis. Around half of the government spend, Jane, goes towards social welfare. And unfortunately, we're not seeing the profits for that social welfare. So we are, as what the Institute has sort of found, is that the country is kind of at a crisis in terms of how it's using its money and how those provision of public services are not actually reaching those people that they are obviously currently that they are supposed to meet. But what they do say that, Jane, is just lastly, is that there has been a lot of progress since 1994. When obviously the country was from apartheid, and a lot of progress has been made from 1994 to where we currently are. However, that progress is obviously sort of diminished by issues like corruption and obviously things like state capture and a diminishing tax base that is obviously not allowing for the economy to grow and for government to actually do more in helping alleviate a lot of the people that live in poverty.
We could have certainly told them that, couldn't we? Tabiso, thank you very much for that.
702, the Midday Report, Monday to Friday.
12 to 1 p.m.
Well, it's the first day of the 2025 Matric finals, and more than 1 million pupils are writing across South Africa. Experts say these exams test more than knowledge, they test emotional resilience. Educational psychologist Professor Cobus Marie says rest, routine and self-care matter. And the good thing is we've got Cobus Marie on the line for us. A very good afternoon to you. I mean, I still have nightmares of, not too frequent, I'm happy to say, about this experience, that I haven't studied, that I'm not ready, that I'm not prepared. I think we underestimate what a stressful time this is.
So very true, but let me put it clearly. If you experience stress, if you're inclined to become stressed, go consult some psychologist or somebody, a life coach, career development practitioner. There is a cure for that. Don't suffer between inverted commas.
Okay. And what would you recommend pupils do to strike that balance between studying and practicing self-care?
Number one, you have to have a game plan, something that you purposely devise. Number two, self-discipline, self-discipline, self-discipline. And number three, be positive, positive, positive. Telling yourself that you're not going to make it, etc., that's not going to work. So a few tips to remember. Work through previous papers. Plan for balance, not just your studies. Include time to rest, your hobbies, your social connections, etc. That said, take short, meaningful breaks all the time. Step outside, stretch, breathe deeply, listen to music. That really works for me. And prioritize sleep. You have to sleep. You have to sleep well. Just want to also list the following two things. Eating nourishing meals in as much as this as possible in your specific condition. Healthy snacks obviously will help you focus better, will put you in a better mood, and will promote your concentration. And something that I want to stress here is you have the permission to eat a banana if you feel hungry, or a bit of chocolate. In between studying, make time for 12, 20 minutes, 50 minutes of walking, stretching, light exercise a day, because that reduces stress and boosts alertness. And then something else I need to mention: be kind to yourself. Acknowledge your effort. Don't only focus on the outcomes. And note, in conclusion, as far as this part is concerned, self-compassion keeps motivation high and anxiety low. Once more, if you're experiencing anxiety, we will help you. Go consult somebody. Don't suffer in silence.
What should you avoid when preparing for final exams?
Let me start off in a random order. Avoid cramming at the very last minute. You know, and I know by now that doing that increases your stress, reduces memory retention. Study in smaller chunks, regular chunks of study time. Also note that memorization alone is not sufficient. You know that by now. You need to understand, and be able to apply. And I need to emphasize something here. Don't only focus on the subjects that you're good at. Quite the opposite. Focus on those weaker subjects. Again, balance is key. And avoid distractions. Now would be a good time to grow up if you haven't done so before. Limit phone use. Yes. Limit TV watching, social media. Please, now is a good time to start practicing self-discipline and committing yourself. And as I've said, unnecessary multitasking. Many people do that during study time. That's deplorable. And again, skipping meals and exercise and breaks reduces your focus and your motivation.
I mean, I was hearing that studying with a phone in your room is just the wrong way to go about it because you're constantly looking to that phone, constantly wondering when messages are coming out. So keep that phone outside of the room. What can parents and teachers do to support these kids?
Number one, don't take that phone away by yourself. Agree, discuss, draw up a contract between your child and you. No phones during this period. You put the TV remote, you put your phone somewhere where you will access it in 45 minutes. That is very important. And then parents, please assist your child in creating a realistic timetable. There has to be some structure. Whether you like structure or not, that's immaterial. Help them schedule certain subjects. Help them set clear daily goals so they can focus on what they want to complete each day so they can stay motivated and on track. And help them practice active study methods. Above all, your child must be active. She or he, they should not sit and watch what's going on outside. They should not be waiting for the phone to ring, etc. You're a grown-up now. You're joining the adult world next year. And prioritize your stuff, please, in discussion with your parents.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience, Professor Kobus Marie, educational psychologist. You've got to be positive. You've got to be good and gentle to yourself and prioritize sleep. Real growth needs more than just banking, and Nedbank Commercial Banking is your growth partner. Their team of industry experts understand your business and its potential, offering insight to help you see opportunity where others see obstacles. Because when you can see what others don't, you can do what others can't. Think bigger. Think Nedbank Commercial Banking. See money differently. Nedbank is a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Tata Punch, take me there. To the ground clearance that lets you rise up to every adventure. Where your infotainment touchscreen connects to your next move. To the store lit by bold LED tail lamps. Whatever there is, wherever there is, let the all-new Tata Punch take you there. From only 244,900. T's and C's apply. Ta-ta-ta-ta.
There's a song that goes, money can't buy me love. And that's true. But then they told us all you need is love, which anybody with a mortgage will tell you most certainly is not true. Love won't pay your parking tickets or your student loan. It's also needy. It requires effort, availability, constant care. But more importantly, love requires time. And while money can't buy you love, it can certainly free up some of your time. Time to spend on the things you love, with the people you love. And if you're looking, maybe even time to find the one you love. That's why, after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time to do the things you love. And don't you love that about investing? Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
Walking this talk together.
Every hour.
Every day. This is 702.
Let's walk the talk.
The Midday Report with Mandy Wiener on 702 Cape Talk is brought to you by Nedbank Commercial Banking. Think bigger, think Nedbank Commercial Banking. And it's been good being with you today. If you want to find out more about what's been happening throughout the day and get a wonderful wrap of the day's news, just remember the day that was. It's our bulletin, which you can find on our app and YouTube in English and isiZulu at 7 p.m. and 8 p.m. It's 1 o'clock now. Time for the news.
This is EWN.
Details of a raid at Katiso KT Malef's home laid bare at the Madlanga Commission, and Japan appoints its first female prime minister. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. Witness A has revealed to the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry today how police raided the lavish Sandhurst home of alleged underworld boss Katiso KT Molefe last year. This formed part of an ongoing investigation into the murder of Vereniging engineer Ahmad Swart. Witness A says documents related to Transnet tenders and pages of signatures were recovered during that search and seizure operation. Swart was gunned down outside his business premises in April of last year, Oren Singh reports.
Witness A alleges that during a search and seizure operation at Katiso Katie Malef's Sandhurst home